Morning. How is it going? I am just making sure we are all where we want to be for the technical, and it looks like we are, so that's awesome. Yay! All right, so I want to start the stream by apologizing if you hear any thunderous sounds kind of in the background. I live on an army base, and there is currently a very large live fire exercise happening some distance away from us, so periodically I'm hearing very, very loud booms. I have no idea if that's going to transfer over through the phone, but if it does, I apologize. I can't really do anything about it this time. And if it doesn't, then all to the good. I'm excited about that. So, I am going to be working on my 100 Days project today, and then my plan is to kind of move on to the Patreon map for this month and kind of just go from there. This is going to be just a working session for me and do that. So to start, I kind of wanted to just show you guys what I've been doing for my 100 Days project so far and explain what it is, and then I'll move from there. So the 100 Days project is basically just a commitment to make something creative for 100 days. You kind of pick an area that you want to focus on and just dedicate that you're going to spend some time each day to working on that. So last year when I did it, I focused on world building, which is kind of a general category. And what I wanted to do was explore more heavily the world that I'm creating for the novel that I'm writing, which is also the campaign setting that I'm currently developing for my first ever D&D campaign. So last year I made it to day 66. This year I'm hoping to make it to day 67 or beyond. And what I'm doing is I'm actually collecting all of my small pieces in this little cigar box so that I have them all together in one place. The larger pieces are going to be on whatever size paper or in my sketchbook, that kind of thing. So in this cigar box, I have a couple of things that I've been working on so far. So this was day one. And one of the things that I'm trying to do with my project is also push myself into using materials or techniques that I've kind of had just sitting around either in my studio or in the back of my mind that I haven't really been prioritizing getting done. Hey, how's it going, Brian? Good to see you. So this, for example, was a liquid masking pen. It's called a Multile marker. And what it is there's, I think it's a latex product in here. Oh, it's water-based, so maybe not. Either way, it's a masking fluid, just like the kind that I normally use in the jar. And it's just in a convenient pen form. So with this, it's a pump top, so this pushes in, which starts your frisket flowing, and then you can use it to draw. So what I did was I drew all my lines, and it created a blue mark on it, and then I painted over it, and then I peeled up the lines, and it left this white negative space underneath it. I want to play more with this during this 100 days setup. I want to try like layering it over painted surfaces and then building up the color, kind of like the wax decorated Ukrainian Easter eggs, just to see if it'll work in that context, and just kind of go from there. So this was day one. And then day two, which was yesterday's, was this one, which is done in marker, a combination of Copic and Sharpies. It's done on a really heavy rag paper that I bought in a sketchbook. I thought I would like the paper more than I do. It's really heavy, and so when I try to use it for watercolor, it doesn't take watercolor well. It soaks up so much product. But it's actually quite nice for marker, so I think I'm just going to restrict myself to using marker on it. So that was day two. And then this is kind of supplementary stuff. So this is a map that's for my campaign, for my Friday people. And it's just on Rhodia dot paper. I like Rhodia because it doesn't tend to bleed through too much without some serious pen on it. And I like that the dots are helping me try to learn scale. Like, to be very honest, I suck at scale, and that's a huge problem as somebody who wants to do fantasy cartography. So the dots are a less obtrusive way of kind of helping me remember, like, this is your grid. Because sometimes I need a direct reminder. And so this was my project for day 3, which is today. And these are just little bits of a leftover map, actually. I had a client change their mind partway through a map and go from color to black and white. So I cut out the oceans because I really loved the blue color that we had managed in the oceans. And then just yesterday, I decided that I'd play with this while I was watching Critical Role last night. And I added some gold gel pen detailing to kind of come up with these sort of celestial themed bits and bobs. What I want to use these for is I was just playing with ideas for decorating a mage's journal that I know my people are going to run into, and just trying to figure out like how I could make that look more magic. This one specifically was interesting for me because the world that I'm setting up has 2 moons, and one of them is only visible if you're a magic worker. So I was trying to figure out like how to represent that in an art way that would be obvious to my non-magic users, because there's mostly non-magic users, in a way that would kind of hint that they need to start finding other ways to look at stuff. So just playing with that idea a little bit and seeing how it goes. I really like this gold leaf sort of effect right now. It's something that I'm super in love with. So wanting to do more of that. So I'm actually going to start with a little bit of that this morning. And then I'm going to move on to working on this giant map that I'm kind of plugging away at right now. So that's the cigar box of awesome at the moment. I'm hoping to fill it. We'll see if I get that far. So yeah, I wanted to do some of the gold foil stuff on these. Just I'd prepped these last night, just thinking about what kind of colors I might want to play with for doing something like that. So I am just going to put down a clean sheet of paper. Where did I put it? I had one, I swear. Too far away. Good job, Shay. And then just do a little bit of the gold work on there. Doesn't that look so good? I really liked it too. So these were the 2 colors that I wanted to kind of play with today. This one, where's my light source, is a fairly saturated teal. It looks a little more blue on the camera than it is in real life. And then this one is like an indigo kind of purpley blue. That's heavy saturated. I know. So there's a whole bunch of art that I was looking at on Pinterest last night that had ceilings like that, especially like vaulted ceilings that kind of came to a point in the middle that had like these beautiful blue gradients on them and then these heavy gold kind of foil stars almost. I was very, very heavily inspired by that yesterday. It just made me super happy. So I'm thinking that that might be an aesthetic that I borrow from when I'm describing kind of the aesthetic of one of the areas that I'm building. But that was partly why I wanted to work with this a bit more, was to play with that and see kind of what I thought of it in the grand scheme of things. I had a bunch of things that I was using to draw circles yesterday, and then I cleaned my desk and moved them for the live stream, and now I can't find them. Good job, self. There's one. So yeah, that's kind of me and where I'm at. What are you guys working on? Yeah, right? I mean, yay, filthy rich people, but also I wish more people had gotten fabulous ceilings. I think the world would benefit from more fabulous ceilings. I had a really neat idea for a place in my world that is got a beach that has painted stones, and that it's a culturally significant thing that whenever you're going through a rough time or like a trial or something like that, that you go to the beach and you paint a stone and you leave it at the beach. And by leaving it at the beach, you're kind of like leaving your struggles, leaving your worries kind of thing, or leaving like a memory of a celebration even. And so I kind of want to play with that idea too. I just like the idea of it as a significant space. Specific purpose it would serve in a game world. It'd be more interesting in a book, perhaps. But yeah, it was a neat thought. make the world a better place one ceiling at a time. You know, it's funny that I'm laughing at that, but when you think about all of the research that's coming out with just how important a clean, orderly, and beautiful environment is for mental health, I don't know that I should laugh. Like, I feel like that's actually important. We don't give ourselves enough credit for what a big deal it actually could be. So, move that one down here. I'm kind of also just in love with this circle template, you guys. It's amazing. Yeah, I wish that I wasn't so ashamed to show you my office right now, Brian, because it is a disaster. The rest of the public spaces in my house are clean, so that when people come over, it's not completely abhorrent. But my office needs some TLC in a big way. Yeah, it was one of those things that I wish I was more disciplined about. I am terrible when it comes to taking care of like the private spaces in my house. It's not a thing that I do a lot of. Like my house is clean, my dishes are done, my floors are vacuumed, that kind of thing, but do I care about making the bed in the morning? Not as much as I probably should. We need something going on in this corner. Just something little, I think. How about that one? So, how's it going in your world? What's new? That's fabulous! Congratulations! I mean, not on the permanently exhausted part, because that's the struggle is real, and I completely hear you on that. But, like, that is fabulous! Oh man. That kind of security is just awesome. We were having a conversation about that over here because, like, my partner's in the military and he's been military for this is his 20th year, I think. So he got in, like, right out of high school. And he's always had an income. He's always had benefits. He's always been contributing to a pension. And that's really not common for people our age in Canada anymore. Like, it's much more common for you to be my age and not have that kind of security, right? And there's times when Dave really doesn't get that because it's been his norm for so long. So just the idea that having a steady contract, like that is fabulous. Congrats. I'm super stoked for you. I have no idea if that's the norm where you're at or not, but I'm happy that it's happening for you. I mean, even just the fact that it's the first time in 6 years, like that's significant. Yeah, sleeping is good. It's hard for me to make myself go to bed early. I'm not good at it. I'm like, but the night is my world. I wonder why metallic pens are just so wonderful. Mind you, they're only wonderful in certain contexts for me. When they're not used in a way that I think is appropriate, I find them get kitschy. Kitschy's the word I want. But I guess I'm currently obsessed with this, which makes it okay. Six or 12-month contracts. Yeah. There's just so much stress that goes with changing jobs frequently. Like, do you contract with staying in the same position? Or are you looking for all new work, that kind of frequency? There was one law that said every 3 temp contracts, your employer had to give you a permanent one. Oh, gross. So you're just being told to fuck off after 2 contracts. That's not cool. It's such a bummer that things that are intended to protect people just end up getting used on a corporate basis to completely do the opposite. Like, I wish that we were just more loving towards each other. I get really suspicious of this whole people as corporations thing. It really bugs me. What if we did this? My idealism is sometimes a problem, though. Well, I guess maybe saying it's a problem is too strong. It just gets me in a situation where I feel disappointed a lot. And that's annoying. No, unskilled labor especially, right? Well, and also we have a tendency to really say that skilled labor is specific to some things where, like, honestly, if you do a job long enough, you develop efficiencies and skills towards doing that job. It's just a matter of, like, do we consider that skilled or not? Yeah. Well, and I don't know how it is there, but in Canada, if you're a contractor, that means a specific thing, and it generally means that you can charge more for your services. So that kind of becomes a thing depending on what you're doing. But it doesn't sound like it's got quite the same context there. No, picking orders in a warehouse for sure, but like there was one night, it is the only job I've ever quit in my life, where I was picking beer in a beer warehouse. And just the sheer amount of hazard from people flying by with like pallet jacks and crushed beer all over the place from people not being careful, stuff like that. Like it had its own hazards. And the smell of it, honestly, like at one point I started feeling like the ceiling was moving and it just was making me very sick and I left. It's the only job I've ever walked out on. I felt so guilty. I called and apologized the next day and said, I'm really sorry. Like, I just can't do this. And it was, it was not one of my defining moments. Well, and this is well before I started drinking beer. Like, I'm still not a beer drinker, but the smell of stale beer is gross. Like, fight me. It's terrible. Yeah, it was not my proudest moment for sure. I felt like really sad that this was the thing that some people just had to do. Like, some jobs just suck, but also that's highly subjective. There were other people that probably were having the time of their lives. Like, certainly the people who were driving the pallet jacks seemed to be having a good time, so that's a thing. Yeah, and unions are really something that's not getting a lot of respect here anymore. Like, I don't know how it is for you, but there's a lot of pushback here to try and weaken the power of unions. Which again, for me, just goes back to like, why are we not prioritizing taking care of each other on all levels? Like, I don't see how any of this fails anybody. Hello, people who are new to my channel. I'm kind of down on neoliberal capitalism, just saying. I understand that we need it, and I understand this is the system we're in right now, but oh boy, it frustrates me. Here, you showed up for art, and I gave you opinions. I feel bad about it, but only a little. I think I want this line to be thicker. So are you having any time for making art now with the new job then, Brian? Oh no, dude, don't be sorry. This is what we're here for. This is why we talk about things. I consider you a friend of mine, so I want to know what's going on with your life. Yeah, time but no energy, for sure. I do understand that. For me, that's not necessarily work related, but when my depression gets bad, it's just like, I have all of this time and no will to do anything. I think that's the part about having mental health issues that frustrates me the most. It's like I could be doing so much, but apparently not. Well, I'm glad that it's not a problem for you right now. That's awesome. I'm diagnosed bipolar and have been dealing with it for a really long time now. And I'm actually in a great place at the moment. Like the meds that I'm on are working and things like that are fairly stable, which is great because 2 years ago things were terrible. It's amazing sometimes what a med change will do for your quality of life. But yeah, it's something that I wouldn't wish on anybody. Like it's a particular soapbox for me because I get really frustrated when people use mental health words casually. Like I get really up in arms about people going, "Oh, this is crazy," or whatever. Like that just gets me because it's like you've never been crazy. I have been crazy. Like no, you don't get to use that word that way. Um, but yeah, it's I'm always open to being very supportive of what people are going through because even if you don't have a diagnosis, life can be fucking hard sometimes. We just need to be there for each other. It's true, hey, when people are just like, just go outside, when you cannot put on socks, you can't feed yourself, or whatever. Like this morning, I woke up and realized I hadn't paid my student loans again. And like, I have a terrible memory. And that's not something that I'm happy about, but it is a side effect of the medication. And it's just like, no. So it's like, shit, there's consequences to this that I'm still trying to manage, even though I'm doing well. Yeah, my cactus is dead and I'm really depressed for 20 minutes. Like, that's not what that means. Like, you have a sad. Congratulations, you're the cheeseburger cat. You're not depressed. I feel like linguistically, that's because we're given to hyperbole, because we live in a social situation where the spectacle is what drives everything now. And if it's not extreme, then it's somehow less real. And that really bothers me because you get a dilution of language. And that dilution of language, I don't think ultimately is in anyone's best interest because it's very 1984. Like, you end up losing what you need to describe what is actually going on, and people start to understand your experience through these other metrics because that's what they understand those words to mean. And I don't think that's helpful for anybody, really. One of my best friends here has a 10-year-old daughter who is very much a YouTube child. And so everything is like the biggest and the worst. And she's always talking about dying and like, you're crazy. And it's like, no, we need to scale this back. Like, I understand what you're doing. And I understand that you're 10 and you want attention. But this is not the place for that language. Like, this is not appropriate. And so trying to have those conversations with a 10-year-old, like, I was that kid at 10 who wanted those conversations. Like, language was super important to me even then. But to be able to try and impress upon it to someone else, like, yeah, it's a challenge. I think it's important, though. I think it's really, really worth it. Oh, circle templates, you are so awesome. All right, I'm digging that. Let's put some more stars in here. I want to make a star map, I think, for my world. Like, actually work out the constellations and stuff. I feel like I need a whole bunch more research into that. Although I'm the kind of person that also paralyzes myself with research instead of just getting on with something. So I need to maybe be careful about that part of it. It's like, oh, but wait, I need to learn everything about this subject before I can learn anything about this subject. And yeah, that's sometimes a problem. That's what having a research degree will do for you. Hey Brian, do you watch Critical Role? Kind of. I need a way to curve 3D space and draw on that. Yeah, for sure. Which campaign are you in? First campaign or second campaign? Because I just started the second campaign a little while ago and I'm really enjoying it. What if I got an old globe? Oh, cool. Well, then we're kind of close together then. I'm on, I think, episode 12 of campaign 2. For the first time, I haven't watched it before. What if I, like, got an old globe and, like, painted it black and then drew constellations on it? That would kind of work, do you think? Nice. Nice, 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 nice. I'm really excited about the way they characterize things. It just makes me happy. Some good laughs. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Alright, what are we doing with this one? I feel like this one should be a border, and then I can put something else in the middle of it. Where is my square? Did I lose it? This is the thing about my desk being such a disaster. Alright. Yeah. So I wonder if, you know those lights that project stars onto the ceiling? I wonder if I could fashion a globe like that and then poke holes in it. And then try to map what is projected? That could be a fun project. I mean, I've never tried something like that before. This is my favorite ruler because it's see-through. Right? Like, I think that would be fun. I think one of the things that I love about the 100-Day Project is it really just gets me thinking outside of the box again, because it's like, okay, well, I want to achieve this. What tools do I need, or what tools don't I have, or what have you? And I dig that so much. I like that place where my brain goes, where everything is kind of new and an option again. It's really easy to get caught up in stuff that's familiar. Oh, I did not get that square at all. Problems. That's okay. Hand illuminated stuff wasn't perfect either. Right? Golden lights projected on a blue ceiling. Absolutely. So this shade of blue that I did my original bits in is one of my favorite shades of blue ever. Like, it's really funny. When I was growing up, my favorite color was burgundy. But now that I'm getting older, it's definitely in this blue kind of tealy kind of spectrum. I love it most. It is the best. It's funny how that changes, hey? Half your walls are burgundy. That'd be pretty. I like being able to change my space. We're in a PMQ right now, so I can't really do a whole lot to change things up without, like, causing problems with housing. But we're looking at maybe buying a house, which would be exciting. And then I would definitely paint. When I first moved in with Dave, he made one of the sweetest gestures ever, and he said, like, I want you to feel like you live here too. So what do you want to do? Like, what would make you happy? And I said, like, I would like to paint something. He was like, what would you like to paint? And I'm like, I don't know, a wall? He was like, sure. So I got to paint the biggest wall in the living room, whatever color I wanted. So I picked a color called Animation Blue and went nuts with it. And it looked amazing. I've never thought about painting a map on my own wall. But when I was living at home with my parents still, let me see if I can find that photo album really quick. I painted huge murals in my bedroom. This photo album. This is a hypothesis. I don't actually know if this is in here or not. This is photos from when I was with my parents. No, not that one. This is the Santa Maria replica that is in West Edmonton Mall, which is the mall that I grew up with. Cloud reference photos, plant reference photos, more plant reference photos, me, family. Could have sworn, no, I guess I don't have them. I wonder where they are. I had photographs of the murals that I did in my bedroom just simply because they were going to get painted over at some point and I wanted a record of them. But I guess I don't know where they are at the moment. Sorry. PMQ, personal married quarters. I live on a military base with my partner. So yeah, we're in they're affectionately called the queues. And they're something that the Army provides so that people have a place to live if they can't afford to buy houses wherever you're posted, or if they just don't want to. Because it can be really difficult to sell in some places depending on where you are. Dave was posted here before when he was married to his first wife, and it took them 2 years to sell their house after they had left. He didn't realize he was getting posted back here. But if he had known, if he could have kept that mortgage for another year, we could have just moved back into that house. So the irony of that is a little bit hilarious to me. But he was like, I don't want to buy again just because it was such a pain to try and sell the first time. And I said, that's fine. Like, we don't have to. So we chose to live in the queues instead. I want a larger circle over here. Head in the way, sorry. See, this just isn't doing it for me the way the other ones were. Oh well, we'll play with it and see what happens. Yeah, for sure. Take the time you need. I think some of the fun that I'm having with this is just making up the shapes. It's kind of amusing. I don't really know what I think of that. I think the radials are important for this particular style. I think this one will be less successful than the other one. And that's okay. That is just fine. Let's try this, maybe. I think it's really important to try doing stuff even if you don't like it. Some of the stuff that I've learned the most from is stuff that I have not liked while I've been doing it. Sometimes I don't even like it once it's done. It's just a matter of, oh, well, that taught me a lot about what I like and what I don't like. I think it's something of a fallacy to assume that an artist likes their work. Often we're our own worst enemies in terms of being critical about it. Oh, I kind of like that. That's fun. Alright, let's see where that goes if we extend that a little bit. Yeah, that's more fun. That's way more fun. We need one of these over here. I do like this heavier royal blue though. I still think I prefer the gradient in the initial wash, but this is pretty fun just in terms of the saturation. It sure looks nice when I look up at the camera. I think what's bugging me about this one is it looks kind of like patterns from the Arizona area of the United States. I want to say Navajo, but I might be wrong on that. I would have to actually Google it, and I don't want to do that right now because it'll break my flow. Which to me kind of breaks this idea of the era that I thought I was working in prior to this. Of lace, yeah. Right? It's not the vibe that I had going in the earlier ones. Like, it's interesting, but it is not the same at all. I got lost somewhere. And I think you're right. I think it has to do with this top one. I think it's square, and that's part of the issue. I don't know. I'm not as satisfied with it. That is for sure. It's really difficult to make random marks. I don't know if anybody's had that problem or if it's just me. Alright, good enough for now. Yeah, that's totally how you figure out what works and what doesn't, right? And you just play with it and then you go, I kind of like this. I kind of don't. Like, I don't mind this one. I think it's too busy compared to the simplicity of what we had going on over here. But that's okay. It's done now, and that's all we needed. I do not know where my bone folder is, and that's a thing. Okay, we'll just use this then. Awesome. Alright, into the box with you. If this one will fit. Nope. Alright, not into the box with you. Okay, that is that part done for today. So, let's jump onto this map for a while. Yeah, no, I like patterns. Patterns are better. So this is a map that I started a while ago. I was at a show with Myrna, who is traveling today, and just wanted to experiment with what would happen if I laid down a bunch of masking fluid imperfectly and then did a wash over it and then removed the masking fluid. And what I found that I really liked is I ended up with what looked like random rivers and lakes and stuff like that because it was imperfect. So I want to play with that and just see where it goes and what it looks like. If it goes well, then I will upload a chunk of it to my Patreon. If it doesn't go well, then I will hide it and never show it to anyone ever again. So, yeah, I haven't taken the pencil lines or anything off of it from when I was roughing out where I thought I wanted my coastline. So, I don't really have a plan for the geography of this, short of just trying to interpret the land around where these water sources are. So that is what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to work in black and white on this. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to leave the landmass as black and white or if I'm going to want to come in with color later. I had so much fun doing my color map for the Mad Map March project that color seems like a great idea. So I'll get some other stuff in here first and see where it goes. Sorry, I'm shaking the table. I don't mean to. It's a fairly large piece. I think it's 18 by 22 inches, not centimeters, which is larger than I'm used to working. I typically work at 11 by 17. So this will take more time, I think, but I think it will also be fun. And then from after this, today I'm working on Raven's map. My goal is to have that done by Sunday. So yeah. Hello to people who are here who are lurking. You are very welcome to say hi and hang out. We are totally cool with that. It's pretty, hey? I love the blue. It's this one. The Ecoline in 508. Ecoline is a liquid watercolor, so it responds exactly like a watercolor does, just that it's in a ready to rock kind of form, which I love for doing large washes. So what I did with this one was I just laid down a whole bunch of water, got the whole thing wet, and then just dropped a whole bunch of brush in there and let it just bleed and mingle and do whatever it was doing. So yeah, this is the color. I love it. I have 2 bottles of it now. I also just love letting it do its thing. Like, it's a bit more figurative and less literal, but I think it also kind of evokes seafloor topography, which I think is a good thing. What pen do I want? I'm really having a malfunction about my pens right now. Alright, what do we think? Some mountains? You are not spamming the chat. At least you're willing to talk to me. I like it when people talk to me. Alright, some mountains, I think. I don't have the best setup on my desk right now. I've got a lot of stuff going on, so pardon me while I finesse a few things. There we go. Alright. You should try it, honestly, Brian. I think it's awesome. It really is. Also, I think that's brave of you giving art supplies that you've never tried. That was not a dig. That was literally like, I do think that's brave. Yeah, that's fair. She works primarily in watercolor then? Nice. That's exciting. You know, I have no skill with Photoshop. It's a thing that I want to learn more about. I just had to turn down a mapping job because I don't do digital color. So that's a thing where I'm like, okay, this is kind of an expectation of the industry now. Maybe I should get on this. But at the same time, I've always done just analog stuff. So the idea of getting into a digital platform is a little bit terrifying. Definitely see myself needing some thicker pens for this. Like this is a PN for the Micron, which is one of the thickest. And it's not really doing what I want it to do. Which is fine. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I like the handmade just because it's intuitive for me. Like I've been drawing for so long that this is easy in a mental process way. The few times that I've tried to like work on Photoshop, it's that frustration of trying to get into a new tool. And so it's not relaxing the way that drawing by hand is. And a lot of the reason why I like to draw is just that it's good vibes for me while I draw. It's a comfortable experience and it makes me happy. So dealing with the new tool frustration is not necessarily where I want to go with that. There's going to be some kind of something back here. I don't know what yet. Yes, watercolors have a different level of predictability, don't they? I'm pretty new to them, so that's been its own learning curve lately. Some serious cliffs going on over here. But that's kind of fun. I'm sure there's a reason, story-wise. Is there a method to the shading lines? No, there's really not. Um, I wish I could say there was. What I ended up doing when I was coming up with this, it was kind of an accident, kind of on purpose, was I had looked at a map that was done by Fantastic Maps, because that was the tutorials that I started with. And I was really enjoying his kind of explanation for how he put things together. And then at the time, I was doing a lot of research on stained glass as well, particularly the work of Louis Comfort Tiffany. And I just really started to fall in love with these ideas of like these heavy black dividing lines between sections of pattern and color. And so I started playing with that just in terms of making my marks and arrived at this kind of contour pattern for the mountains. And I dig it, and I dig it enough that I'm kind of working with it a lot right now. It may change eventually, but at the moment I'm pretty fond of it. So I try to keep my ridge lines pretty defined so that it's easy to follow kind of where they are, and then work with everything else just based on whatever feels good. The biggest rule is to try to make sure that you don't have the same set of lines beside each other, because otherwise those sections tend to blend together and just look like a larger mass. But beyond that, I wish I could tell you there was actually a plan. It's just me making shit up, because that's a thing that I do. Yeah. I'm glad you like it, though. I'm really heavily influenced by the fact that I started drawing from comic books a lot when I was a kid. So the heavy black line as an outline is something that I got very, very familiar with at that point. It's just an aesthetic that I like. I'm comfortable with it. I use it. It's got kind of a graphic style that I'm a fan of. I'm not making very good mountain ranges today, though. And that's alright. Feeling kind of Bob Ross about the whole thing, to be honest. Which is acceptable. Yeah, Chris Riddell is amazing. I absolutely love his work so much. I follow him on Instagram, and it just makes me so happy that he's so prolific and always has such incredible ideas for how to invoke shade and texture with just such minimal materials. Like, Chris Riddell is one of the best arguments that I can make for the materials don't necessarily make the artist. I know a lot of people who are like, well, I can't possibly make art. Like, I need to save up. I need to buy this. I need to buy that. And it's like, no, honey, you really don't. Like, you just need to get started with whatever you've got in front of you. Most of the rest of it is just making excuses. So this little bit here is water. So we're going to make that into some kind of waterfall. Sorry, I wasn't trying to call you out. I swear I wasn't, Brian. I promise. I just found that for myself, like, I used to be like that, and it really robbed me of the opportunity to make a lot of art. Like, when I look back on it now, there's some truth to that adage, like, a year from now you're gonna wish you started today. And yeah, that's a thing, particularly in my world. That said, I am completely oogling a set of Daniel Smith watercolors right now that just makes me so happy. And I'm like, I can't imagine how good my work is going to be once I have these colors. It's like, you know what? Just do the work with the colors you have. You can play with those ones when you get them. No, I don't need them. Like, that's the truth of it. I want them. I think they're really, really cool, but I don't need them. Yeah, I really want a Cintiq. Like, not gonna lie, I think part of my brain is resisting getting into doing digital media until I can have a tablet that's like that. I have a little, I think it's the Intuos, but it's the solid surface one. Like, it's not a screen, so you can't see what your hand is doing. And I'm trying to teach myself to use it, but it's honestly very difficult to train yourself to look up at a monitor when you're used to spending all of your time watching what your fingers are doing. I'm getting the knack of it now, but oh man, that's been a thing that's been tripping me up. How did you find getting to use it? Like, did you have the same thing too? Yeah, I could see that being a thing. Honestly, I use it the most for digital cleanup of art. Like if I'm posting a map and I've made a mistake or something, going in and erasing the mistake. Okay, so the biggest thing I'm feeling frustrated with is that the top of this paper is curling. Let's see if we can anchor that down a little bit. I hear that for sure. Oh, that's better. There we go. I think that that's a good way to do it because a lot of people expect the smoothness of digital color, but they want the freshness of the by hand line work. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think that for a lot of people, getting that combination requires the technology, right? And then the skill with the technology. I'm definitely not technologically skilled that way. I think this is way out of scale, but whatever. It's why I start on maps for me and then figure stuff out before I actually offer them to other people. I think that that's important. The snow has largely gone. We're mostly down to what we refer to as parking lot icebergs, which is Canada. Honestly, we feel like Canada sometimes. Um, we're down to parking lot icebergs and like areas where the snow was built up from clearing, but largely the grass is clear and stuff like that now. The weather's actually been nice. We've been above zero reliably for about a week. It's still going down near zero overnight, but that's okay. We had a couple days that were like plus 15 already, which was just gorgeous. I'm such a fan. Everything's still brown and gross though. Like we have no green grass, we have no green leaves. If the weather keeps up the way that it is, we should be starting to get some greenery soon, which will be good for my heart. At least we have a spring this year. Like I keep kind of complaining about the weather, but last year we went from winter to summer. Like there was really no spring thaw and no kind of lingering we're getting into the season. So this has been much more the way that it should be. Last year was such terrible not goodness. I'm kind of surprised that things are as on schedule as they are though, considering that we got so much snow in February and just that it was so cold. Like our February on the Canadian prairies was the coldest February on record for 80 years. There was something like a 4 or 5 week period where we did not get above minus 20, which was just ridiculous. Let me tell you, that was not fun. We had weeks at a time where we weren't above minus 30, which gets old. It gets so old so fast. I am not a huge fan of it. I want this to be like really hilly on this side, but with this perspective, I'm not sure how to represent that. Maybe a few more cliffs? Let's try that. Meh. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's alright. I don't normally add contour lines around water. Um, I usually tend to do a heavier coastline, but it kind of. I've started playing with some. I don't know if you saw my mock-up thing when I was doing the Mad Map March project. Let me just pull it up here. So when I was doing Mad Map March, I don't know if you can see it very well. I started playing with like different kinds of coastline. Some of these are in white, which makes them easier to see. Some of them are in black. There we go. Just to see if I liked how it looked. I find what I really like is doing the shadow along the coastline in like a gray marker, just to add that pop without it being like bang in your face line. And the reason for that is I do a lot of bang in your face line for everything else, right? Like I do a really heavy ink style for stuff. So I'm trying to find ways that give you that information without giving you that heavy sense of clutter or presence because I'm pretty bad for it sometimes. So trying to figure out like in some ways just editing to make things clean as opposed to busy. Sometimes I get it right. Other times I'm just like, ooh, that's too much. Too much, too much. Yeah. Economy is a good word. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I think sometimes the mark making is just because I get into the habit of like enjoying how my hand is feeling while I'm making marks. And it's like, I just want to keep going with this. It's like, oh, maybe hold off on that a little bit. Alright, now I want a bunch of trees in here. But this is my thick pen. What can I use? And what can I use that's going to be waterproof? You're not waterproof. You're not waterproof. Guys, I need more waterproof pens. My ones that I usually use are dying. Oh, that's kind of fun. I dig that. It'd be better if the tip wasn't frayed. How's that up there? That up there is alright. Probably better for denser bits of forest. Alright, so if we do that and then go back in here with this, yeah, I like that. That's good. I've started enjoying just leaving little bits of white negative space to indicate waterways. I like the subtlety of it. I think it's pretty reasonable. And then I can just go back in if I'm working with color and add that color again later. Yeah, okay. I'm digging that. That's working for me. I'm gonna darken that up a little bit. Right in here. I think I'm going to put in my coastline here. One of the things that I like about doing my coastlines like this is that it gives you a lot of natural variation in your edges that you can then kind of play up as if you meant it to be intentional. And I find that that gives me a much more realistic coastline. It kind of adds that randomness that I'm not really capable of doing on my own. And I find that that's tremendously helpful. So one of the things for laying down trees is you want to think about where your water flow is going to be coming off of any of your tall surfaces. And you're going to get more growth in where that water flow is, because those are valleys and that's where the saturation is going to be. So having trees and other foliage in those spaces is just going to help add some realism to what you're doing. See, again with this not being able to make random, and then they all form lines. It's an issue. Yes, it really is a good way to accentuate the ridges. You are not wrong. And if you're using different pen widths to kind of put trees onto a thing, when you're dealing with mountains, particularly the mountains where I grew up, your trees are going to be thinner towards the top because there's less oxygen, less water, all of that jazz, and they're going to be more dense towards the bottom. So using a thinner pen weight coming up the sides of the mountains will help kind of re-emphasize that particular point to your audience. And that's just something that helps us make connections that things are thinning out. Well, when I was doing my trees, like drawing each individual tree, I would do it by like indicating density using that shape. I find the pen width just super handy because it's faster. And I'm starting to try and find ways to make my work go more quickly, just because commissions are picking up and stuff. But I don't want to sacrifice like how good things look just because I want things to be faster. So trying to make that work out too. And don't be afraid to go in and cover some of those marks that you've used to kind of create the shadows on the trees or on the mountains with some of your trees. Like, it's just going to add to the sense of density, and that's not going to be a bad thing. You're on your way? All right. Go do your thing. Enjoy your walk. I hope you get lots of rest tonight and a good day at work tomorrow. Bye. Oh, it's been an hour and a half. Okay, I think I may actually sign off as well because I have other things I need to get done today. But thank you for those of you who were here, who were quietly hanging out. I'm glad that you could join me, and hopefully you will come and hang out again another week. Never feel worried about talking. If you want to, great. If you don't want to, that's also totally cool. And I will catch you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.